Hi everyone, and welcome to the Mythea Online Introduction Series. In this video, we will cover the Mystics tab and the way spell casting works in Mythea. There are several mechanics that tie into how different spells will work, and we'll cover that in this video. We'll break it down first by looking at self spells, and then we'll move into looking at casting spells on others, which include intelligence spells and then hostile spells. Starting with self spells, the first thing to know about casting any spell in general, including self spells, is that spells will cost mana and runes to cast. You can see right now I have 85% mana. The baseline mana regeneration per tick is 3%, but some races and personalities get a bonus to that. There are also items in the game that can give you a bonus to this. My province has no bonuses to either gaining or losing mana per tick, so I will gain 3 mana every tick, or every hour. So I have 85% mana right now, and I have 477,000 runes. So I'm pretty good on casting spells. I can cast a lot of spells if I need to right now. Pretty much every self spell in the game will cost 3 mana, and then a differing amount of runes. Different spells cost different amounts of runes. I can click this drop-down menu here, and I can see all of the self spells that I have access to, including their rune cost. The rune cost is decided by a spell's difficulty. Different spells have different difficulty levels, and the more difficult a spell is, the more expensive it is, and also the less successful it will be on average. So I'm looking at the minor protection spell, which will give a boost to my defensive power of my military. It'll increase my defense points by 5% while it's active. You can see right now it has an 89% success chance, and it'll cost 942 runes and 3 mana. But then if we take a look at down here at the very bottom to the Paradise spell, the Paradise spell is quite nice. It just creates land for your province, but you can see it has a much lower success chance and a much higher rune cost. So it's quite an expensive spell. And you would need to build your province a specific way if you wanted to get reliable use out of Paradise. My province isn't built like that right now, but the success chance of a spell in general, as well as its duration or its impact or damage, or in the case of Paradise, how many runes it land it creates, is determined by how many guilds you have in your province as a percent. So I go over to the construction tab, and I can see that I have 10% of my land as guilds. If you wanted to get the highest possible duration out of your spells, the cap is 20% guilds. Some setups, some races and advisors don't need that many because they get bonuses on their advisors to the effectiveness of guilds, which means they need fewer guilds to get to the 20% effectiveness. But for me, I don't have any of that, so I would need to get 20% guilds if I wanted my spells to have the highest success chance and the longest possible duration. But I have 10% right now, so I have a decently low success chance on Paradise, and it won't really do much for me. It'll give me between 3 and 6 acres, and you can see up here I have almost 3,000 acres, so it's not that useful to me right now, just because I don't have that many guilds. But this is the way that self spells work. Depending on your guild percent, you'll have a higher success chance and a longer duration, or you'll create more acres for your province. And we'll just go ahead and we'll cast minor protection right now, since I don't have it active right now. And we'll click, and it was successful on our first try, and then we actually got some gems for that spell, which is a kind of a random chance to happen every time you cast a spell. And we'll go into that later, what gems are and how you can use them. But now my military is the defensive efficiency of my military is 5% more right now, which means it's harder for enemies to muster up enough offense to break my province. And so you can click this drop-down menu, you can see all the spells you currently have active, as well as all the spells you currently have access to. Fertile Lands is probably another useful spell I should have on my province right now. And so I've casted that, it's successful, and for 9 days my province will produce more food. So you can hover over each of the spells on this drop-down menu to see what they do. And different races and different personalities will have different spells on this menu available to them. There are a handful of spells that are just baseline to everybody, but then spells like Ghost Workers are specific to certain races and personalities. So I have access to this being a dwarf. And then I believe that's everything about self spells. So we'll move on to intelligent spells and then hostile spells. Intelligent spells are spells you can cast on different provinces. So I have kind of a random kingdom pulled up here. And I can cast Crystal Ball, which will show me their overview tab. So like if I were to click on my overview tab, it will show me all of this information about their province, with the exception of Thieves and Wizards and Science. I would need to separately gather that intel, so these will appear as unknown when I look at a Crystal Ball operation. But all of this other stuff I can see about their province, including what advisors they have active. So the success chance of any spell being cast on another province is determined by this metric here called mod WPA, which stands for wizards per acre. This is modified wizards per acre. You can see here I have 14,592 wizards. Wizards are gained through your guilds. Your guilds will just passively train wizards for you every tick, unless you cancel training, which I actually currently have. Wizard training blocked right now, so I don't overpopulate on wizards and have less population for other things like military and peasants. So I have a modified wizards per acre of 7.31, and this number will be compared against whatever the modified wizards per acre is of the province I'm casting on. And basically, the more wizards per acre you have, the higher chance you have to succeed against another province with casting any spell on them, including these intelligent spells. And likewise, the more wizards per acre you have, the less likely an enemy will be able to land a spell against you. The way that you can see, it tells you here, we don't know the success chance of this spell because we don't know their wizards per acre. We can cast the Arcane Examination spell, which is right here, to find out. So we'll go ahead and give this a try. So we were not successful. We were only 10.29% effective on our spell, so we'll try again. Okay, we failed a second time. We'll try one more time. Okay, so we succeeded. And now we know what spells they have active, and we also know their wizards per acre now, and now we can see the success chance of our spells. So I have a 54% chance to succeed on the intelligent spell against this province. And we'll go ahead and we'll try a Crystal Ball. You can see again we have a 57% success chance. And intelligent spells cost 2 mana, so they're a little bit cheaper to cast than offensive spells or self spells. So we'll try a Crystal Ball against this province. And we can see it was successful. And now I can see kind of what's going on in their province. I can see what items they have, what advisors they have active. And I can see now that they have 11,000 wizards because I used the Arcane Examination spell. And so we can use this to gather intelligence about enemy provinces, enemy kingdoms. And then the Crystal Eye spell spies on their news. So if I cast this Crystal Eye, it was successful. And now I can use the news tab for this kingdom to see what has happened recently with this kingdom. Are they fighting another kingdom right now? Are they funding dragons? Did they kill a dragon? Are they doing ops against a kingdom? I can see all of that now for this kingdom. So that's an overview of intelligent spells, and now we'll move on to hostile spells. Hostile spells, right now I only have a handful available to me against this kingdom. Hostile spells will not become available en masse. Like I won't have access to my full spell book against a kingdom until we're in war or we're hostile with them, which is a type of relation in the game that we'll cover in another video. But right now I have no relations against this kingdom. We haven't done anything to them. They haven't done anything to us. And so I have a very rudimentary spell book available against this kingdom. Again, you can hover over the spells to see what they do. The Storms spell is quite useful. It stops peasant growth in the target province. So as long as storms are active, there will be 0 new births in that province, which if you've done a really good job of stealing or killing their peasants, and then you can get storms up on that province, their economy will be crippled for a very long time, and they'll have no way to regenerate their peasants. So it's quite a useful spell. The downside to storms, it is one of the easiest spells in the game to cast, and it comes with the downside of being able to be completely nullified by the Nature's Blessing self spell. So you can see here, Nature's Blessing will protect your lands from any future droughts and storms. So if you have the Nature's Blessing spell active on your province, and then somebody tries to cast storms on you, it will just not work. It'll be nullified, and you will be safe from an enemy casting storms on you. So there are different interactions between the spells, and I would advise you to just kind of read through what all the different spells do and if there's any cool interactions. For example, the Patriotism spell, if you read it closely, not only increases your draft rate for your province, but also reduces the damage of propaganda, which is a thievery operation. It cuts it in half. So different spells have kind of these unique effects to them. If you read carefully, you can see. Builder's Boon is another spell that not only makes your building rate faster, so you can build buildings faster in your province, it also reduces the duration of enemy arson by 50% and how many buildings you lose every tick to arson. So there are lots of different interactions of the spells, and the best thing you can do is just read through what every different type of spell does. Here's another good one, Shadow Light. I tend to keep this active at all times. If somebody tries to do a thievery op against my province, it'll let me know which province tried to do that, and then if they fail, their thief losses will be double against my province while this spell is active. So it's a really good way to deter enemy thieves. But back to self spells. Against this kingdom, I don't have a good spell book active. If I target my own kingdom, and I don't recommend ever doing this, like actually casting spells, I'm just doing this to see the full spell book I have available against a kingdom that we would be at war with. You can see your full spell book if you're just targeting one of your own teammates. So that's why I'm doing this. So you can see I have a lot more spell access now. And this would be my spell book in war. So again, the success chance is determined by my wizards per acre versus their wizards per acre. And then in the case of a duration spell like Greed, the duration, just like self spells, is determined by your guilds. And then there are certain races and personalities and items that can modify the duration of spells and stuff like that. But the max duration, if you want the max duration baseline, you need 20% guilds, or you need a combination of a certain percent and then a modifier such as Mystic gets double the effectiveness of guilds. So in order to get an effective 20% guilds, you only need 10%. So there are modifiers like that in the game that can mess with that number, but ultimately you need an effective 20% guilds to have the max duration on offensive spells. So this has been an overview of the way spells work in the game. I would encourage you to read the tooltips for all of these spells to get a good feel for what they do, what they don't do. And good luck out there and happy casting. In a future video, we'll cover the thievery operations, and then finally we'll cover military attacks. So thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.